Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to the PinkUn Matchday vlog. My name is Southwell, and I think this is the first time in a while since I've been doing this that we actually have a 3 o'clock kickoff to get our teams into. I mean, the traditionalist inside me is singing with joy. We've not had many of those this year, let alone in the Premier League. The day is surprisingly clear. I was expecting a little bit of rain. Maybe we'll see the sun just peering over my shoulders ever so slightly. It's going to be a fascinating one for Norwich today. Of course, they'll be keen to build on that 1-1 draw with Leicester last weekend at the King Power, where they looked very impressive. They played with resilience and applied themselves very well. And today they've got a different test in Wolves, who, of course, themselves are going and won the league. Okay, lost to Spurs last week, but only lost in the last minute. Are superb on the counter-attack. Have a winger who is ranked as the 4th most in form in Europe in Adama Traore, and have goal scorers in Jimenez, Jota and Catrone as well. So this is going to be an interesting game, particularly given the way Norwich absorbed pressure last week and played last week. They're going to need that and then some this week to overcome Wolves. And of course you can throw into the mix as well, of course, Ben Godfrey, Norwich's centre-back, an issue really that has, well, it's a position, isn't it, that they've had issues with all season in terms of injury. I've not known an injury list like it, and now Ben Godfrey has succumbed to injury. Of course, the LCL injury that's going to keep him out. Daniel Farke said about 6 weeks, till about February, which is obviously a massive blow, but that means a chance possibly for Grant Hanley, who's had a few months out for injury, to step in and show what he can do again in the Premier League. So plenty of narratives there. It's going to be interesting, and yeah, I'm looking forward to today. I think it's going to be a game between a side who likes to counter-punch. So how do Norwich City, as Paddy wrote this morning, counter-punch a counter-puncher? That's what we'll find out. Forgot to mention a couple of things in my opening bit there to camera. First and foremost, we'll get the important stuff out of the way. VAR, some changes to that today. So the big screens are going to provide more information. So, for example, if there's a check for a penalty, it will say what that check is for. So if it's for a foul or for a possible encroachment, there are some images on my Twitter that the Premier League provided. So that's a good reference point. They're also going to show replays if a decision gets overturned. So hopefully that helps the fans in stadium understand perhaps a bit more of the thought process of those making those decisions. So that's going to be interesting. Secondly, onto more important matters. Of course, this is the last home game until Christmas. So the start of what you could describe as a pivotal festive run. But I thought I'd take the opportunity now to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas before we get lost in the cut and thrust of the game this afternoon. What's the score going to be today? I think he's going for a 2-1. There we go. Today's Matchday programme, brilliant tribute to former Norwich City manager Ron Saunders. Of course, I wasn't of his time, but it's fair to say any person from around these parts understands what this guy and equally what Duncan Forbes did for the football club so many years ago, in terms of building the foundations on which the modern day club has been established, and why the club have had so much top flight success is down to what this man has done. So fitting tribute to him on the front of the programme. Undoubtedly a Norwich City legend, and it was all very, very sad when we learned of that news a couple of weeks ago. So the team news, as expected for Norwich City, one change. Grant Hanley replacing Ben Godfrey. He takes the armband as well. Of course, his first Premier League game in 3 months or so. So a big afternoon for him to see how he responds. And then Wolves, looking at some of the names on that list is fairly daunting when you look at João Moutinho, for example, Raul Jimenez, Ruben Neves as well. Lots of talent. Adama Traore, of course, is one of the most informed players in Europe, if you believe certain places, and then a couple of Norwich City names on the bench for them as well, John Ruddy and Ryan Bennett. So interesting to see whether they get any action today. But that's the team who's, and to be fair to Daniel Farker, probably as close to continuity he could get after Ben Godfrey's injury. I'm sat in it feels very mild, I must say, for a December afternoon, but no doubt as the afternoon progresses we'll get some more cold, and no doubt that the gloves will have to come on. But I'm seeing all the flags, which I'll show you in the next shot, being laid out in the Barclay. Looks like quite a full display in there today. Of course, the last home game before Christmas as well. So no doubt that it's going to be an interesting afternoon, particularly given the magnitude of this game and the start of the festive period. So let's see how we respond, and we're just seeing John Ruddy come out to warm up here.
From 2019, would you put your hands together and give them a round of applause as they bring out some of the music and songs from the Wonder 2019? Merry Christmas, everyone.
Half time here at Carrow Road, Norwich City, 1-0 up, deservedly so. They've been by far the better team. I think perhaps the only regret on their part is that it's not more than that. We've had Alex Tetty hit the inside of the post after a wonderful save from Rui Patricio. Pukki's gone through a couple of times, and one was another good save by Patricio, and the second probably should have done better from that position, to be truthful. and it's been almost a replica of what we saw against Sheffield United in that first half. And Norwich asserting themselves and playing some really nice stuff, but facilitated by Wolves' lack of energy and lack of intent. And of course, on part it is due to Norwich retaining possession really well, but equally Wolves haven't squeezed them in the same way we've seen teams do in recent weeks. So now it's all going to come into how well Norwich can manage the response from Wolves, which we're bound to see in the second half, because no doubt Nuno will be in there now trying to galvanise his group after a pretty lacklustre display on their part. But yeah, we're just hoping that come full time Norwich aren't left to rue those opportunities that they squandered, because that would be quite the thing. But this is probably as well as they've played for a long time, I think, that in that first half. And if they can maintain that, then it proves that there are points to be won here and in these types of games. And boy, given I think Southampton are 2-0 up at Aston Villa at the moment, so that makes a win even more essential to keep in touch with Southampton, who would go 3 points above them. But 45 minutes, plenty could change. Still feel like Norwich could need a second goal.
Thank you for your fantastic support this afternoon. Please be careful as you leave the stadium. We look forward to seeing you again in Carrow Road, 5:30 on Saturday the 20th of December, when we take on Tottenham Hotspur. For more details, please visit canaries.co.uk. Finally, from our main club sponsor, Alphabet, and all the Skipper Norwich City Football Club, we wish you all a Merry Christmas and hope you have a safe journey home.
Good evening to everybody watching this on the PinkUn YouTube channel. Thanks to Connor for asking me to come on and give my thoughts. My thoughts being, I'm livid with that result, absolutely livid, as I'm sure 27,000 other people are, in terms of who came to the game. A few red flags for me from that game. One being, what's Daniel Farke saying at half time to the players that's making them come out after such a good 45 minutes and play so terribly. His substitutions, again, not great. I saw a good tweet which basically said that they were reactive rather than proactive, and when you're in the driving seat in a game like Norwich were today, you've got to be proactive in terms of finishing the game off rather than reacting to changes. By no means necessary am I questioning the job Daniel Farke is doing or his position at Norwich City, because I think that would be ridiculous to do that. But again, such a good 45 minutes from Norwich. Buendia running the show, Cantwell playing really well. Pukki really probably should have scored 2 or 3 in that first half, which I think has come back to bite Norwich on the backside. The second half, really, really poor from Norwich, very flat. I think sort of it matched the atmosphere at Carrow Road, because as soon as Wolves took control of the game, everything just went flat. And yet again, Norwich have conceded from set pieces where they've not been proactive again in terms of clearing the ball. It's been very sort of, as it always has been, you know, as soon as one man in the zonal marking strategy, whatever you want to call it, tactic, as soon as one man loses his position, which I think was Sam Byron for the first goal, suddenly 2 people find themselves unmarked. And obviously Wolves are going to finish that, aren't they, because they're a team with such such quality, hence why they're doing so well in the Premier League and Europe, in fact. But yes, a really, really disappointing evening at Carrow Road. A few red flags, as I said, but for some reason my heart still says we can stay up. My head's saying that Norwich are slowly going to, get cut adrift from the rest of the Premier League, which seems to be happening. We now sit 6 points from safety. So it's going to be a hell of a task, but I still believe Norwich can do it. Whether they will or not is a very different matter. But I'm Ben Ambrose, and if you want to see more of me, you can go to Total Football on YouTube, the YouTube channel for My Football Writer. But yeah, thanks for having me on the channel, and I'll see you very, very soon.
That was painful. Thoughts on that? if you can express
I'm lost
that.
for words, mate. It's Christmas, so I'm going to try and be cheerful. But yeah, I mean, first half was superb. Should have been 3 or 4 out of sight, and then second half it was just Sheffield United Mark II, as we just said there. But just can't be doing that at this level, unfortunately. Can't be doing that at this level, and we got punished by a very, very good side.
That's the frustrating part, isn't it? The fact that they did play so well in the first half, the fact they did have those opportunities and they didn't take them.
Yeah, exactly that, mate, exactly that. And it is frustrating, and you can be as annoyed as you want, but at the same time, you just got to look at it and think, you know what, it is what it is, and we move on again, and we've got another game in, 5 days' time, so
yeah,
we go again.
6 points adrift now. It's not looking particularly great as we go into the festive run.
As I said on whatever it was, Wednesday, are there 3 worse teams than us at the minute? Based on that second half, no, there isn't. I think we had 1 shot second half, where I think if we'd have got a second, I think we probably would have been out of sight. As I said on Wednesday, I think there is a team that is due a hiding from us of 3 or 4, and I think that was probably there first half to be done, and if we'd have scored a second or a third in that first half, I think the game could have been done and dusted, and people were saying brilliant, Norwich are looking up, but sadly they're not. Southampton have done it today, Villa, and gone and scored 3 and put in a big performance, and we had our chance, we haven't taken it, but you know what, I'll try and be as positive as I can. I'm obviously, as you are as well, we're very annoyed and should have got something out of the game, but we haven't, and Villa it is on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's frustrating because, as you said, they had the opportunities. Tetty hit the post, Pukki had a couple of glaring opportunities in the first half. Patricio's made a number of fine saves, but ultimately boil it down, and had Norwich got that second goal, then that's a completely different game, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, if we had got the second goal, it is a different game, but we're not playing, like I said to you, we're not playing Bolton anymore, we're not playing Rotherham's at home. You're not going to keep getting chances like we would have done in the second half. If this was the Championship, you would have got more and more chances second half. We haven't done that, but at the same time, you can create all the chances you want, and I've got to say, Buendia was fantastic today. But you can't do a big, a whip ball in, fair enough, but literally a lumped ball into the middle, and you can't defend it at this level. You're going to get punished. Even in the Championship, you're going to get punished for that. So no excuses, really. Not good enough.
I think that was Norwich's 6 of the last 7 goals Norwich have conceded have been from a set piece. So the issues in terms of defensively in open play, or it certainly was when that corner was scored. Obviously they then scored from open play, but so that's 6 of the last 8 goals have been from set pieces. That's a concerning trend now, isn't it?
It is concerning. No, I said first half, I honestly thought we'd be alright from set pieces with the size of that team that Wolves were. I actually thought we'd be alright, and first half we looked okay. I thought we did really well with set pieces, and I thought Hanley, that's where he'd come into his own, but not to be, and we just haven't conceded. We've conceded another goal from a set piece, and it's just worrying. Do you change it? Do you go away from that philosophy? If you're going to do that, then I might as well say, well, I'll rip up all my piece of paper that I've got and the way we're going to do it in our philosophy and start again. But if you do that, you then start a whole new problem, in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's, again, for me, another example where Norwich, one half was excellent, and they just couldn't sew the 2 halves together in terms of consistent performance, and that is almost reoccurring, isn't it, this season?
But there's nothing you can really pinpoint. There's nothing you can say, we didn't do that second half, we just weren't at it. I don't know what it is. You can say, and I said at half time, were we brilliant first half, or were Wolves really not at it? And I hate saying that because it really puts us down. But at the same time, you've got to look at it and think, is that the case? Because they've come out second half and they've absolutely dominated us on our own patch. So you've got to look at that and say, is that the case? But at the same time, again, it comes back to doing the basics. I thought we did the basics really well first half and did a job. If you score a second or a third, it's all hindsight what could have been, but it didn't happen. So we're here again, we're 6 points away, and a long way back from here, I think.
I think Fee could be right. Ross, thank you very much. Top man.
Brilliant.
That's that's the view from the stands after.
I'm going for a beer.
Yeah, don't blame me, no worries. That's the view from the stands. You'd have heard Ben as well before this, and certainly some concern in these parts now after that defeat. Another game where Norwich did have opportunities and couldn't take them. Here we are then, I'm stood at the top of the snake pit after yet another disappointing defeat at Carrow Road, and this time it was to a Wolves side that, at least on the evidence of the first half, Norwich City definitely could have extracted points from. And that really is the disappointing element that we're talking about here, and I've made parallels on Twitter and did so at half time in terms of that first half performance being very similar to what we saw against Sheffield United here only a few weeks ago. Of course, some people were rightly keen to point out that the first half performance was actually better than what we saw against Sheffield United, and they're absolutely right, because the way Norwich moved the ball, they looked like a side oozing with confidence and really keen to assert themselves on the fixture, and then what happened there was very similar, and when I say similar, I mean similar in terms of the trend and the pattern of the game and ultimately the outcome, but in terms of what we saw on the pitch, it was probably quite far removed from what we saw against the Blades in terms of performance. And Ultimately, frustration will be the word, because Norwich City had so many good opportunities in the first half. Alex Tettey hit the post, wonderful save by Rui Patricio. Pukki had 2 clear sightings of goal that he should have done more with. Definitely should have converted at least one of them. And Kenny McLean also had an effort early on that Patricio tipped round the post. So there were chances here for Norwich City today, and the way they played in possession in that first half was excellent. It really was. It flowed, it was cohesive. They flooded the middle and really exploited that space that Wolves left because of the overload of the 2 against 4. It was at times when Cantwell and Buendia joined Tribal and Tettey and McLean as well at times to flood that midfield, and that's where they created chances from it centrally. And because the 3 leave the space, that allows Pukki to almost slot in that space and play, and they did find him on occasions. And whether it was still that lingering toe issue or whether he just had a bad day at the office, I'm not sure, but had he have taken one of those opportunities, we'd be sitting here talking about a Norwich City win, I'm sure about that. So yeah, the first half, Cantwell takes his goal beautifully. I mean, we've got to talk very quickly about the emergence of him. How much he's improved in a year is ridiculous, really. He looks a player competent at this level, a player able to compete at this level, and a young English talent who is taking the Premier League by storm. And he did that today again. Another goal, good all-round performance, although perhaps faded a little bit. I thought Buendia was probably better today. Probably the best performance we've seen from Emi for a number of weeks, if not this season, certainly, because the way he influenced the game and got on the ball was impressive, but equally his defensive work as well was good. And that's the frustrating element, because there are so many good parts to this Norwich City performance today that we could dissect and analyse. But ultimately it's come down to small margins again, and it's come down to Norwich gifting goals, firstly from a set piece. 6 of the last 8 goals. It was 6 of 7 before Raul Jimenez put the ball into the back of the net, but 6 from 8 goals of their last goals have been conceded from set pieces. That's a concerning trend, and particularly when they've worked so hard structurally to organise themselves from open play, to then go and concede a goal again from a set piece where the corner gets worked short. There's no pressure on the man who's gone short. Martinho's allowed then to curl a high ball into the penalty area towards the back post, where Saiss is waiting just to nod it home, and he's got the run on the defender. And you can talk about zonal marking all you like, but it's the basics. And to have 2 men at the back post in the second phase of a corner, completely unmarked, is unacceptable and inexcusable at this level, and you get punished, and that's the nature of it. And Norwich City are learning harsh lessons, and particularly today they were harsh, they were brutal. But fundamentally, those small margins decide whether or not you stay in the division. And when comparisons to Sheffield United I make, and someone said this on Twitter, and they're absolutely right. In terms of that game against Sheffield United, felt like an assault of guns. Basically, the gunshots seemed to splatter all over the place, and today felt like a knife, sort of a knife wound, so to speak, because that was the nature of it. Norwich weren't tactically undone. They were probably the better side for the majority of the game, and it's an inability to defend from set pieces that is costing them, and the second goal is well worked, in fairness. And Wolves probably did shade it in the second half. Norwich created next to nothing again, and I keep coming back to that word frustration, and I do, and it lends itself to the question, doesn't it? That first half, was it down to Norwich being good, or was it Wolves not being good? And I asked the same question after Sheffield United, and in fairness, I think it was Norwich applying themselves well, because the second half didn't change drastically enough for it to be proved that Wolves just were in second gear, and it was a lacklustre performance. They did lack energy, but Norwich asserted themselves well and played some really nice passages of play, and and solidified the middle to ensure that Wolves didn't hit them on the break, and that was really impressive. It was very good, and it was very consistent throughout that first half. Tettey and Tribal broke the play up. They gave it to players to create, and like I said, they hit the post. Patricio makes a few saves, and if one of those saves goes in the back of the net, it's a different game. And when perhaps we'll all look back on Alex Tettey's shot crawling off the post and crawling across the line, but didn't quite have enough on it to go across the line fully. And yeah, this feels like a massive chance missed, a massive opportunity squandered, because Southampton have gone to Villa Park today and won. That now means the gap between Norwich and survival is 6 points. That's becoming increasingly difficult in reality to imagine them making up. But the one thing they have in his favour now is the media have written them off. I'd say probably a number of their supporters have written them off. Probably we have written them off in this side as well in terms of the media, and so they've got a wonderful opportunity now with no expectation to go out and play some Premier League games and play half a Premier League season with character, with fight their way. And if they do play games, and we've seen it with the ability in their first half, they proved they're good enough at this level. Their inability to sew two halves together of the same quality consistently is what's going to cost them, and equally those areas of those marginals I'm speaking about, because ultimately, and we saw it today, Norwich have dominated a game for the first half in particular, but probably for 10-20 minutes of the second half as well, and have failed to come away with nothing. And that's the fine margins that either keeps you in the league or sends you down. And at the moment, Norwich aren't managing those periods with enough experience and with enough ability ultimately, and that's what's, if they do go down, and we have to stress there's a long way to go, that's what they're going to be left to rue. Because I've seen on enough occasions, for glimpses within games, Norwich City are good enough to compete at this level. I haven't seen very many 90 minutes that back that up in terms of evidence, and that fundamentally is the issue. But there you go. Another defeat, and that game at Villa Park now feels crucial. Whether Dean Smith will remain in the dugout or not, we'll have to see. We'll just end this by saying very sad news after this game, that Norwich City legend and of course former World Cup winner Martin Peters has sadly passed away. Another Norwich City great lost in what feels like a matter of weeks, and I wasn't one of his generation, but these names mean so much. I think when you're from these quarters, they evoke certain feelings. Just because you haven't seen them play, that doesn't mean you can't feel what they've done or notice the impact they've left. And when I hear my grandparents speaking about Martin Peters, and I hear about my father speaking about Martin Peters, and I see the outpouring on social media, perhaps it does put things into perspective a little bit. And yeah, I'll end by saying a very Merry Christmas to you all. This is the last game before Villa Park. So thank you very much for watching everything we've done this year. Thank you very much for your support for me as well since I joined. It's been greatly appreciated. Have a very good Christmas with all your loved ones. Try and switch off from the football, and we'll see you at Villa Park come Boxing Day.